Discover the spine-chilling truth behind the cursed black cat, a terrifying tale revealed. Sarah and Mike stood at the threshold of their new home, a charming red brick house that seemed to whisper secrets through its cracked windows. It was a fresh start, a canvas for dreams of family dinners and sun-drenched afternoons. Unpacking boxes, laughter filled the air, warm and bright, but shadows lurked just out of sight, a web of darkness woven tight around their new life. As dusk began its slow creep, they stumbled upon an old, dust-covered book in the attic. The words jumped from the pages, a legend of terror, the infamous midnight, a cursed black cat said to unleash misery on its unlucky owners. The mention sent shivers through Sarah, an icy tendril wrapping her heart. They dismissed it as local folklore, a quaint story of small-town gossip, and returned to their idyllic fantasies. But as night fell, it felt different. The atmosphere thickened, an overwhelming sense of dread coiling around them. With each eerie silence broken only by distant whispers of wind, the neighborhood grew dark, transforming from welcoming to claustrophobic. Shadows seemed to stretch and dance, watching them closely. Flickers of movement at the windows, a fleeting glimpse of something dark sent jolts of fear racing through Sarah. Just a cat, Sarah, Mike reassured her when she shared her fears, but she could hear the tremor in her voice. It's just the stories. The warmth of their bond felt like an unraveling thread. Alone in her terror, each thread of anxiety tightened around her, choking her thoughts. As the days passed, the disturbances intensified. The chilling sounds of distant meowing seeped through the walls at night, echoing in her mind like a taunting laugh. Well-meaning neighbors turned colder, their once friendly faces now shields of indifference. When Sarah approached them, they exchanged knowing glances, their smiles brittle and strained. One harrowing night, she ventured outside to retrieve a misplaced package. The cold wind wrapped around her like a shroud, and a looming figure darted away, melting into the darkness at the edge of their yard. Heart racing, breathing shallow, she rushed back inside. She told Mike, but he merely patted her shoulder, dismissing it again. Perhaps it was all just the tales that seeped into her mind, swirling like autumn leaves. The police brushed off her concerns with condescending nods that ignited fury in her chest. The feeling of isolation deepened, as the quieter nights became a battleground for her sanity. She dug further into Midnight's history, tales of past owners lost to tragic fates digging their claws into her soul. Each revelation twisted her gut tighter, shadow upon shadow. Then came the cold snap that struck their neighborhood, plunging everything into darkness. The scratching sound at the door was sharp and urgent, sending adrenaline coursing through her veins. Heart pounding, she flung the door open, only to find swirling autumn leaves and an unsettling quiet. Across the street, she caught a glimpse of Mrs. Hargrove, her neighbor, watching from behind closed curtains. The old woman's eyes shimmered with a chilling mix of sorrow and malice that sent Sarah's heart plummeting. That finger beckoning her closer felt like it reached for her very soul. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A chilling howl pierced the night, slicing through the silence like a knife. Sarah's breath hitched, each inhale filling her with dread. Something was lurking, something hungry and cloaked in shadows. Shadows deepened, and trust began to erode. Mike's skepticism drifted like smoke as Sarah found herself questioning who to trust and what terrible truth encircled their lives. Would they uncover Midnight's true nature before it was too late? Or would they become just another whisper in the wind of Ohio's dark past? The night stretched in agonizing silence as Sarah stood at the door, the wind howling like 1,000 spirits. The air thickened, pressuring her chest. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the faint scratching noise that resumed just beyond the threshold. It was persistent, insistent, like a drawing claw begging to break through. Mike, she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. He was standing at the kitchen table, staring at the book they had found. The flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across his face. The anxious fidget of his hands betrayed his calm facade. "Yeah," he finally replied, eyes narrowing in concern. "Did you hear that?" "What?" His voice carried a tinge of irritation, but she could see it. Just beneath the surface, the fear mirrored her own. She jerked her head toward the door. He hesitated, glancing toward the darkness outside. "Just open it with a tentative hand." She unlatched the door, the creak scraping against the stillness of the night. Darkness spilled in, it felt alive, writhing like an unseen serpent. Then she saw it. A pair of eyes glinting like shards of glass in the dark, narrowed and watchful. Her breath caught in her throat as the creature stepped forward. Its black fur appeared sleek and haunting under the faint light. It was midnight. "Get back!" she shouted, slamming the door shut. But the creature was quicker, darting in before she could fully close it. The thud of paws on the floorboard sent a wave of panic rippling through her. "Sarah!" Mike barked, leaping forward. What the hell? But it was too late. Midnight lunged, claws flickering out, slicing her ankle like a knife. She shrieked, crashing into Mike as they tumbled onto the floor. The cat darted around them, now a whirlwind of shadow, raking its claws against the walls as it searched for an escape back outside. "Get it away! Get it away!" Sarah cried, scrambling backward. "Easy! Easy!" Mike was wide-eyed, legs fumbling beneath him. He reached for a box, tossing it toward the frenzied creature. The cat swatted the box aside like a toy, unbothered. A growl reverberated from its throat, vibrating through the air, threatening and primal. Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. This couldn't be real. The legends had been just stories, hadn't they? Midnight halted, its gaze fixated on Sarah, as if sizing up its prey. "Stay back," she warned, holding out her arms. It pounced, and in instinctive reflex, Mike leaped in front of her, shielding her with his body. The impact of midnight crashed against him, scrambling for purchase, piercing through fabric, leaving sharp reminders of its presence. "Mike!" Fear ricocheted through her, and she lunged forward, grabbing a stepladder and swinging it at the creature. The clatter echoed through the dimly lit room as it missed midnight by inches. The cat hissed, skittering away, searching for another opening. "Don't let it out!" Mike shouted, scrambling to find his footing. In that instant, a chilling realization gripped Sarah. This wasn't just a cat. It was a harbinger of darkness. They were no longer simply unpacking boxes, their innocent life had unwittingly invited horror into their home. A loud crash reverberated from the kitchen as midnight knocked over dishes, its wild eyes now glowing with unnatural hunger, like it was savoring their fear. "Sarah, we need to get out of here!" Mike yelled, as crackling laughter filled the air, mingling with midnight's growls. The shadows in the corners coalesced, whispering secrets of past owners, of lives dismantled by this unholy creature. "What if we don't make it?" The words slipped from her lips in a desperate gasp. "I don't know." The door they had come through was now an escape route, but the way out seemed obstructed by their own dread. What awaited them in the darkness beyond? As midnight stalked closer, its eyes locked onto theirs, a piercing sound erupted from outside, a chorus of wails filled the void, harmonizing with their visceral fear like a warning. Suddenly, a voice broke through the chilling atmosphere. "Don't let it take you." It was Mrs. Hargrove, standing at the edge of their property, her form barely illuminated in the darkness. She raised a trembling finger, grasping at the air as desperate gasps fell from her cracked lips. "What do you know?" Sarah cried out, but the darkness distorted the reply. Before she could propel another question, midnight lunged once more, the cat's form merging with the shadows around them. And then everything went black. What waited in that abyss? And would they ever escape the clutches of the cursed black cat? A cold, suffocating darkness enveloped Sarah and Mike. The air was thick, stinging her senses and filling her with a paralyzing fear. She strained to hear anything at all. But silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Mike. Her voice sounded strangled, swallowed by the void that had taken them. Just as panic threatened to overwhelm her, a glimmer of light pierced through the darkness, ghostly and unreal. The soft hum of the flashlight flickered to life. Mike's hands shook as he held it up, revealing their surroundings. They were still in the kitchen, but everything felt different. Shadows twisted unnaturally on the walls, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to watch them. Where's Midnight? Mike stammered, his breath ragged. I don't know. Fear laced every word. She could feel her heart racing, a wild drumbeat echoing in her ears. They needed to escape, but the fear of encountering that thing again rooted her in place, and then she heard its soft padding, creeping closer. Over there! Mike exclaimed, directing the beam of light towards the source. The soft rustling and eerie growl returned. Midnight emerged from the shadows, eyes glowing with an otherworldly ferocity. The cat's form was elongated, almost serpentine, and its features warped as it approached them. Stay back! Mike yelled, raising the flashlight defensively. The creature hissed, an unsettling sound that sent chills racing down her spine. Midnight's body twisted unnaturally as it circled them, its eyes flashing with a predatory hunger that cut like ice through her veins. Suddenly, the walls pulsed, as if the house itself were alive, groping tendrils of darkness threatening to swallow them whole. What's happening? Sarah gasped, her eyes darting around the room. The laughter returned, hollow and mocking. It came from everywhere at once, a cacophony of despair and malicious triumph. The memories of those who lived here before echoed in her mind, people lost to this darkness, their souls absorbed by midnight. No. We can't end up like them. She stumbled backward, the reality dawning on her. This house was a trap, and midnight was the key to their destruction. Sarah, we need to act. Mike's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. There has to be something we can do. She glanced frantically at the scattered boxes littering the kitchen floor, their contents spilling out like the remnants of their lives. What had they brought into this place? Wait. A memory flickered to life. The book. The book. It said something about the cat, about traditions. Traditions? He struggled to keep the creature at bay while trying to analyze her words. The legends: if we perform the right ritual, we can banish midnight back where it came from. Then we need to find it. Mike shouted, fear tightening every syllable. But in the midst of their frantic search, the shadows thickened, drawing closer, eerily alive, hungry. As they desperately sifted through the boxes, Sarah's fingers brushed against paper. Here. She pulled out the book, opened to a weathered page inscribed with strange symbols. The growling intensified, vibrating through the air, echoing their panic. Midnight pounced at Mike, claws flashing dangerously, but he dodged just in time, the creature crashing against the kitchen table instead. Come on! She cried, flipping pages. With trembling hands, they read the incantation aloud. Their voices mingled, rising against the din, the laughter, the growls, the very whispers of the house. Then, the lights flickered, and the shadows recoiled. Midnight snarled, its expression morphing from curiosity to fury. Keep going. Mike urged, backing away as the cat started twisting, its form blurring. Another flash of light exploded in the room, illuminating the chaos, as a terrible screech ripped through the air. But just as hope surged within them, a deep rumble echoed beneath their feet, shaking their resolve. The floor split open beneath Midnight, revealing a yawning abyss, cold and dark, a portal. Don't stop! Sarah screamed, but as they reached the end of the incantation, the air ignited with a blinding force. Midnight shrieked, a horrible cry that mingled with the cacophony rising from the ground, and just like that, as their voices reached a peak, Midnight vanished into the void, swallowed whole, silence following, leaving only the echo of once unyielding terror, but the silence was thick, like a real presence lingering still. The shadows didn't disappear, they formed again, creeping closer. Sarah's voice trembled. What if it doesn't really end here? As the darkness thickened around them once more, they realized the truth. Some doors, once opened, could never be completely shut. What lay beyond the next corner? What fresh horrors awaited them in this haunted home as the laughter returned, even colder than before? Sarah, we need to move. Mike's panicked voice sliced through the tense air. The shadows coalesced, undulating like a living thing, and the oppressive silence wrapped around them again, making their skin crawl. Where? How do we escape this? It feels like something is watching us. Her heart thundered in her chest, the primal instinct to flee battling against the gripping fear that tethered her to the spot. The kitchen now looked smaller, the walls closing in, warped by the dark. Maybe we can try the front door, he suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. As they stumbled toward the exit, the shadows swirled with renewed energy. Desperation clawed at Sarah's throat. The door loomed ahead, but it felt as if it were miles away. Everything in her body screamed for flight, yet her feet felt glued to the floor. A low whisper echoed through the air, slithering into their ears. The words were indecipherable but held a tone that chilled her core. The floor transformed underfoot, warped patterns dancing like the flickering flame of a candle. It was as if the house itself was alive, twisting around them, felt more like a beast than a structure. Let us go. Mike urged, breaking free from the entrancing grip of dread. He pushed Sarah forward, towards the door, but just as she reached for the handle, the lights dimmed. The total darkness threatened to swallow them again. The whispering grew louder, a chorus of tormented souls. Stop! A voice cried out suddenly. It was deep, guttural, and sent a jolt through Sarah's spine. A figure materialized in the doorway, a wraith-like presence cloaked in shadows, its face obscured. Fear wedged tightly in Sarah's throat. Who are you? Mike's voice trembled. Fear is a powerful thing, the figure hissed, looming closer. You cannot escape that which you have awakened. Awakened? Sarah echoed, confusion wrestling with terror. What do you mean? The dark figure lunged forward, a gaunt hand extending towards them. The shadows licked at its fingertips, twisting around it like a living cloak. Loneliness echoed in its voice, a sorrowful lament that tattooed itself on Sarah's heart. You're bound to her. To midnight. The pact was sealed long before you arrived. No. Sarah shouted, shaking her head violently. The cat was gone. How could they still be trapped? Even now, the darkness seeks to reclaim what is hers, the figure continued, glancing back at the remnants of shadows. She needs you. You will sustain her. A wave of nausea rolled through her. We don't want anything to do with it. We just want to leave. Laughter erupted again, an eerie sound echoing off the walls. You cannot abandon what has chosen you as its own, the figure warned. Then, the kitchen door slammed shut, sealing their exit. Panic surged as Sarah turned back to Mike, desperation washing over her. What do we do now? Mike stood frozen, his eyes darting across the room as the shadows coalesced into more distinct shapes, each one a remnant of lost souls. They whispered secrets of the house, the horror of their own fateful choices echoing like a song of despair. Maybe. Mike started, voice trembling as he glanced at the book still grasped tightly in Sarah's hands. Maybe we need to recite what we found again. If midnight is connected, there has to be a way to link all this back together. But what if it doesn't work? What if we only make it worse? The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her chest. We don't have a choice. He exclaimed, eyes wide. Stay close. We can't let them overwhelm us. She nodded, her heart racing as the shadows inched closer, their whispers now sharp, almost taunting. Together, they clutched the book, its pages crinkled with age. As they began to chant the incantation again, the shadows pulsed in time with their words, a collective heartbeat of darkness rising in crescendo. But as the words flowed, the wraith shifted, a guttural roar escaping it as it lunged forward, its intent rippling through the air like a violent wind. "Finish it!" Mike yelled, panic threading through his voice. "Keep going!" Sarah cried, as the weight of the house began to press down harder. The shadows screamed, a terrifying wail that echoed through the house, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. Would they finally break free or be lost forever to the gathering darkness? The connection they forged might not be enough to close the door they had opened. The very air crackled with danger as they raced to finish the incantation, the question hanging over them: what, exactly, had they unleashed? As Sarah clutched the book tighter, sweat trickled down her back, mingling with the cold terror freezing her limbs. Each word she spoke resonated through the kitchen, only to be swallowed by the cacophony of wails rising from the shadows. Were they the last echoes of those trapped before them? Shadows twisted and knotted as if fighting against the incantation, seeking to drown them in despair. "Don't stop!" Mike's voice broke through the chaotic noise, barely audible over the shrieks surrounding them. "Push forward!" The wraith surged, its eyes voids of black filled with rage and sorrow, two emotions intertwining in an expression that sent a shiver down her spine. Its scream pierced the air, collapsing the frail discipline of sound around them. "I can't!" Sarah gasped, her throat tight. What had they awakened? But Mike's determination propelled her forward, and she closed her eyes, summoning any strength she had left. "We need to bind the pact," she shouted, aiming her voice at the wraith, at the heart of the storm. She recited the next lines of the incantation, her heart racing in sync with the shadows that surged forward, threatening to devour them whole. "Stop them! They can't be allowed to finish!" A voice shrieked from the depth of the shadowy mass. "Listen to it, Sarah!" Mike urged, pulling her closer as if banking on sheer willpower to shield them from the darkness. "It feeds on fear. We have to make it afraid." With each line spoken, the dim kitchen flickered like an old movie reel, the memories of loss piercing through the darkness. Sarah summoned every ounce of bravery, remembering the cat, the soft purring lullaby that once filled the air. This incantation was their chance, a shining sliver of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. Yet, the wraith lunged once more, a lung of darkness that pulsated around them like a malevolent beast hungry for release. "You will fail. Your will is nothing," it hissed, its voice echoing like an insect buzzing in her ear. Panic surged within Sarah. What was she doing? The shadows seized like hands around her throat. Time slowed down. Her lungs burned for air. Just as the next words spilled forth from her mouth, she caught a glimpse of something reflective among the shadows. A pair of piercing eyes, familiar yet warped. The cat. "Midnight. Sarah. Focus!" Mike yelled, his voice jerking her back. She opened her eyes wider, determination igniting the spark inside. "We're bound to her. If we can reach her." "Midnight!" she shouted, feeling the power build within her. It resonated through every corner of the room. The shadows recoiled, hitting the walls like crashing waves. "Good, keep her safe," the wraith sneered, but even its confidence faltered. Breathing deeply, she channeled everything: the desperation, the loss, the bond. They were fighting for midnight, for the cat lost to the darkness. "We bind the pact," she cried, almost choking on the intensity of the surge, the air choked with tension, the air thickening like honey, slipping through her fingers. Suddenly, a violent burst erupted around them. Shadowy forms twisted in agony, their screams piercing the fragile barrier separating them from freedom. "What is happening?" Mike shouted as the darkness roared, splintering off the entity's grip. "It's working." But just as hope ignited, the wraith shrieked, "You think you can control her? You've only fueled the fire. She will consume you." The walls began to shudder, the light flickering as sinister laughter echoed once more, draining the courage from Sarah's veins. The shadows surged to reclaim their space, and Sarah felt the cold creeping fingers grasping at her ankles like a firm warning. "Finish it!" Mike screamed, terror leaking into his voice. What choice did they have? They were closer now, but the shadows twisted viciously, desperate to stop them. With the last syllables of the incantation hovering on her lips, she looked to Mike, their eyes locking in shared fear and grim resolve. Together, on three. But just as they joined forces, a deafening crack split through the air. The floor beneath them trembled violently, sending them crashing down into a swirling void of darkness. What awaited them in this new abyss? Would they find midnight or fall deeper into madness? The shadows hungered for more than just fear, they craved power. What had they truly unleashed upon themselves? The impact sent shards of darkness spinning around them, a maelstrom of confusion and terror. Falling felt endless, the void swallowing them whole. Sarah grasped blindly in the blackness, her heart plummeting faster than her body. "Mike," she screamed into the dark, but it felt like a lost whisper. The descent finally stopped, her body crashing onto a cold, rough surface. Pain echoed through her limbs as she pushed herself up, eyes straining against the oppressive darkness. "Are you okay?" she gasped, coughing against the lingering shadows. A voice, closer than she expected, rasped back, "I'm here." Mike's silhouette emerged like a ghost, white-knuckled and shaking. Around them, the air pulsated with malice. Sounds of disembodied whispers brushed past them, tightening the already thick tension. Had they escaped the wraith or fallen deeper into its trap? "Do you see anything?" Mike asked, scanning the void, his breath trembling. "Just darkness." Her voice cracked, fear creeping in. But something wasn't quite right. A faint light flickered ahead, flickering like decay-infested candlelight. They had to move toward it, even if it drew them closer to whatever cursed them. They edged forward, their hands brushing against remnants of what felt like crumbling walls, as though the space itself was alive, pulsing with the dark energy they had awakened. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices vying for attention, knotting her stomach with dread. "Sarah, it knows we're here," Mike murmured, paranoia tightening his voice. "Who knows? What does?" She countered, trying to bolster his courage, but her own was fraying at the seams. In this place, she'd felt lost before, trapped by the shadows, haunted by the past. And now it felt like twinkling eyes were watching them from every corner. As they approached the light, shadows skittered away, as if recoiling from something brighter. A chill wrapped around her like icy tendrils, pulling her attention back to the whispers. "Find her, find midnight, did you hear that?" Mike asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah," she responded, her heart pounding. "Yes, here. We have to keep going." The light grew stronger, revealing the remains of a space that resembled their kitchen, a warped reflection of their home. Midnight's litter box sat in the corner, stained and forgotten. A tattered cushion lay nearby, marked with old scratches. "Is this some kind of twisted joke?" Mike breathed, his eyes wide and wild. "No, no. It's a trap." The realization slammed into her like a wall. They were not just in a nightmare, they were part of it. Dark figures surged from the corners of the room, fragmented shapes of their own fears and lost moments, a shattered vase, a whisper of laughter, the scent of decay. It was the past clawing at them, wanting to drag them under. "Stay close," Sarah warned as she pulled Mike along, dread pooling in her gut. The light flickered, battling the surging shadows, but the wails swelled again, drowning out their thoughts. "Where is she?" Sarah shouted as they approached the light's source, a mirror reflecting an endless chasm of dark and light, a doorway to what lay beneath. In the reflection, they saw the edges of shapes, fur and eyes. Midnight. She was moving, but not on her own terms. The sight was enough to send Sarah into a frenzy. "We have to help her. We can't leave her." The moment Sarah reached for the mirror, the shadows coiled around her wrists, pulling back, threatening to drag her away. "No. Don't touch it," Mike yelled, panic sparking in his eyes, but it was too late. The mirror pulsed with energy, a chaotic yawn revealing glimpses of nightmarish landscapes. She was about to lunge forward when a piercing shriek echoed, forcing her to freeze in fear. "No!" Mike roared, trying to yank her back, but it was already over. The darkness poured into her mind and the whispers erupted into a chorus. You will never escape what other horrors lay behind the mirror. What price would they pay to save midnight and understand the terrible truth they set in motion? And then, a soft but clear voice rang through. The chaos, help me please. The mirror pulsed, a heartbeat of dread that throbbed in time with Sarah's racing pulse. The darkness swirled around her like smoke, not letting go, clutching her in a cold grip. She could almost see midnight, her eyes swirling with fear and confusion, scrambling within whatever hellish world lay beyond that glass. Sarah! Mike's shout cut through the rising tide of despair. We need to go. Please. But she couldn't tear her gaze away. Midnight's tiny mew echoed, a sound distorted by the chasm between them. Help me please. The word dragged at Sarah like a knife, slicing through the layers of fear, igniting an urgency she couldn't ignore. With one final push, she yanked her hand free from the shadow's grasp and thrust it toward the mirror. I'm coming. Just hold on. Desperation twisted her voice. The mirror shimmered, revealing a glimpse of a room that felt like their own but distorted through a nightmare. The whispers intensified, wrapping around her. She's better off without you. Just let go. They slithered through her mind, sowing seeds of doubt. Klaxon wails filled the air, thrashing her confidence. Was Midnight actually better off? Had she been a burden they dragged along this hell? No. Mike pulled her backward, but the more he tried, the stronger the shadows became, grasping, clawing as if alive. Stop! She screamed, thrashing against the grip. We can't leave her. We have to try. In that split moment of hesitation, another voice rose above the cacophony, cold as steel and thick with malice. You want to save the cat? Then what will you give? Dark tendrils erupted from the mirror. For a horrifying instant, the reflection shifted to reveal a dark figure, its eyes glowing in the shadows. It held Midnight in its arms, the cat's body limp, enveloped in darkness. Let her go. Mike cried, and Sarah felt the intensity of his fear. They were at the mercy of something ancient, something that fed off desperation. What are you willing to sacrifice? The figure echoed, its voice dripping with contempt. Win your feline friend and lose something dear, or lose her forever. Don't listen to it. Mike shouted, fueled by panic. We can't bargain with this thing. But the darker part of Sarah's mind whispered back, flooding her thoughts with memories of the countless times they had failed to save Midnight from small crescendos of fear. The many times she'd been left alone. She felt the shadows beckoning her. What if? With a scream, Mike launched himself at her, aiming to pull her back full force. But the moment he did, the shadows lunged toward him, breaking his grip. His panic-stricken eyes reflected her own inner turmoil. No. This isn't happening. She yelled, rage bubbling under her skin. If we sacrifice something, it will be on our terms. Suddenly, as if hearing her thoughts, the dark figure grinned, exposing hollow canine teeth. Very well. Name your price, but I promise, it'll be a choice that will haunt you. Without thinking, Sarah blurted out, our memories. Take our memories of fear, of loneliness. The laughter of the figure fractured the air, an echoing mockery of her voice. An offer accepted. But remember, everything comes with a price. Then the darkness surged, enveloping Mike and Sarah, ripping through their minds like claws against tender flesh. As beads of memories streamed away, something shifted in the oppressive atmosphere. The shadows receded momentarily, pulling back as if gauging their offer. But would the absence of their fears lead to liberation, or was it simply trading one horror for another? In the distance, Midnight's mew echoed again, raw and desperate, and they needed to act. We can't let it take us. She shouted, fighting the pull of emptiness clawing at her core. Just hold on. Mike yelled, gripping her shoulder, both of them teetering on the edge of despair and hope. The mirror shimmered again, daring them to step forward, to leap into the unknown. What would they discover beyond the darkness? Would their sacrifice be worth Midnight's freedom? The shadows quivered in the mirror's depths, ready to unleash whatever lay hidden. Go! Mike shouted, but would they succeed, or would the darkness swallow them whole? The mirror rippled, each wave pulling Mike and Sarah closer as they fought against the darkness that clawed at their minds. The air turned thick and suffocating, as if the essence of their forgotten fears was swirling around them like a storm, dark and relentless. As Mike steadied himself, his grip tightened on Sarah's arm. She could feel his pulse racing, could feel her own heart echoing in their shared desperation. Just let us go. He urged, his voice strained, desperation spilling over. They took a tentative step toward the mirror, an instinctual pull guiding them. The tender mew of midnight was growing louder, growing clearer, cutting through the haze with a rasping urgency. Stay focused. Mike hissed, eyes darting to the shadowy figure waiting on the other side. The thing was still there, a grotesque mockery of life, cradling the flaccid form of midnight like a predator's kill. The figure's grin widened, as if feeding off their terror. Your souls, they were so full of fear, it taunted, its voice like gravel scraping against stone. But now, you've sacrificed much of it. Yet you still cling to hope. How naive. The shadows scoffed, swirling violently, as if in disagreement. The air crackled with dread, and the reflection of their home beyond the mirror warped, flickering between dimensions. Is that truly what you want? The figure sneered. To wade deeper into this darkness to fetch something so trivial as a cat? This isn't just a price, it's a torment you've invited. Shut up. Sarah shouted, the sound tearing itself from her throat. Her anger ignited a flicker of bravery deep within. We want to let you take us. You don't get to decide what's trivial. For an instant, the figure hesitated, as if surprised by her defiance. It let out a low chuckle that sent shivers down her spine. Ah, a spark. But sparks burn out, don't they? With renewed fury, Sarah pressed forward, tugging Mike with her. We have to try. Emerging from the depths, the mirror shimmered with a dazzling yet sinister light, illuminating pathways of forgotten memories. A flood of images rushed through her mind's sudden moments of fear, filled with whispers of abandonment and shadows that danced just beyond her vision. As they surged again, she gritted her teeth against the icy grip closing in. Midnight's meow twisted like a knife, now filled with pain. It pushed Sarah forward. Let go. Mike shouted, trying to anchor her. We'll find another way. But Sarah couldn't back down. She turned and roared, we're not leaving you. We've fought too long. In that moment, the world around them gasped. The walls pulsed as if they were alive, responding to her demand. A shift, a ground tremor beneath them, the shadows wavered, absorbed by her strength. Such conviction the figure mocked, but the glass rippled, threatening to sever its grip. Give us midnight. Mike shouted. Just give her back. The figure's grin faltered slightly, and a tangible tension filled the air. Perhaps, you hold more sway than I thought. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, slicing through the air like whips. Midnight's form dangled in the figure's clutch, the poor creature struggling, yet still it seemed to sense their presence, its eyes starting to flicker back to life. But just as hope surged, the figure roared, you can't just barter with me. Every demand comes with sacrifice. What more do you want? Sarah whispered, the edges of uncertainty creeping back. With eyes wide, the figure's gaze darkened. Only what belongs to you willingly. Sudden silence wrapped around them, the world freezing, suspended in that mere instant. Sarah felt Mike's arm tense beside her. What would happen next? What would they lose? Make a choice now, the figure sneered, or lose her forever. Everything lurched inside Sarah, emotions crashing like roaring waves. They were perilously close to the edge. Would they take the final step, put everything on the line for a cat? Did it matter? Would they barter freedom for another piece of their souls? What now? Mike breathed, terror illuminating his features. That glowing, twisted smile sent a shiver racing down her spine. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. Do you dare to enter? The figure asked, as the shadows surged again. Will we emerge whole, or will we be forever haunted? The choice lay heavy before them, urging them to leap into the unknown. What lay beyond the darkness? Would they find midnight, or something far worse? The mirror shimmered ominously, pulsating with potential, waiting for their answer. The mirror's surface pulsed like a heartbeat, each thrum echoing Sarah's racing thoughts. She felt the weight of Mike's fear beside her, nearly tangible. The figure's presence loomed over them, an oppressive thing that thrived on their dread. Each whispered temptation brushed against their minds, planting seeds of doubt. Just say the word. The figure taunted, its eyes glinting like shards of glass. What is it you truly value? A fleeting trinket, or your very souls? I've seen many come before you, souls with promises unkept, all lost in the end. Sarah swallowed hard, her throat dry and scratchy. Every fiber of her being screamed to turn and flee, abandon the madness and the ghostly cat. But something deep inside whispered that they owed midnight this fight. Please, Sarah, Mike urged, shaking her lightly. We can't. We can't lose ourselves. Not for a cat. A cold breeze swept through the air, whispering secrets of how far they might fall. In that freezing moment, Sarah felt the thorny tendrils of hesitation wrap around her heart. What if she is counting on us? Midnight's shape now jerked in the figure's grasp, the creature's eyes opening just a fraction, signaling a flicker of hope. Sarah. Mike's voice snapped her back to grim reality. We need to decide now. The figure let out a laugh that vibrated with malice, echoing within the very bones of the house. The choice is simple, lovebirds. You can either embrace the dark and pay the price, or scatter, leaving behind your precious pet and all the memories tied to her. I will feast on your regrets if you do. Make it stop. Mike shouted, panic shaking his voice, his grip on Sarah tightening as if he might shake her out of this trance. Do you even know what darkness lurks in there? The figure gestured toward the mirror, what secrets and fears you haven't yet confronted. To find her, you have to face yourselves to see what you truly are. Midnight's mule pierced through the cacophony of ominous laughter. It yanked at Sarah's heartstrings. She couldn't allow the shadows to win, couldn't surrender to the despair that clawed at her insides. Then we face it together. She declared, clenching her fists, fueled by the flickering hope for midnight. I won't just let you take everything. The figure's expression morphed, the grin twisting into a grotesque snarl. Together, huh? What a noble gesture. But nobility demands sacrifice. With a sudden, jagged motion, the figure thrust midnight toward them, flipping the light to darkness. There was a brief moment of betrayal as Sarah reached out, only to feel the backdraft of swirling shadows that pulled her down into the depths of uncertainty. Let us go. She screamed, forcing herself through the veil. And as she sent herself hurtling into the gaping maw of the mirror's world, every shred of reality crunched into fragmented memory. The feeling was like falling through ice. In a heartbeat, they landed in a fractured landscape, a warped reflection of their home, yet twisted and surreal. The colors drained, leaving behind nothing but pale shades and creeping fog. Where are we? Mike gasped, looking around with wide eyes. Cameron Hall, Sarah whispered, recognizing a distant memory. But it had morphed into something sinister, the walls too close and the air too thick. They stood in a room filled with shadows that whispered lost memories of fear, sorrow, and despair, echoing back to them like a sinister chant. Each memory holds part of your soul, the figure's voice echoed, now surrounding them. Unravel one thread, and both of you will fall deeper. What do we do? Mike stammered, the panic palpable in his voice. Choose wisely, the clock is ticking, it jeered. Or she will be lost to you forever. As whispers surrounded them, shadows reaching out, the darkness beckoning to consume them, Sarah's fingers brushed against something cool on the ground, a small figure, lost but familiar. Could midnight be nearby, or perhaps something darker awaited them? What lay hidden in their shared past? Would their memories bring salvation or doom? They hadn't reached the end of despair yet. The air crackled with an electric tension as Sarah and Mike stood in the shadow-filled room, memories stirring like dead leaves caught in a fierce wind. We have to push through, Sarah urged, determination stealing her voice. She could feel Mike's anxious energy beside her, but there was a flicker of resolve in his eyes. What if we can find a way to? Mike began, but the shadows twisted, their whispers clawing at his words. I know. Sarah interrupted, recalling the essence of their bond. Midnight. She must be close. If we anchor ourselves to her, we can navigate this nightmare. Sensations swirled within her, her heart beating in sync with other lost souls, those that lingered in the house they had unwittingly cursed. They had come searching for peace, but now they clashed against the darkness with desperation. Okay, Mike said, his gaze honing in on her. Let us remember her. She needs us. In unison, they closed their eyes, memories flooding back, Midnight's soft purring against their legs, the way she would curl into a ball, a living reminder of warmth and comfort amid their fraying lives. The cacophony of whispers grew louder, filled with sorrow yet tinged with hope. They both felt it, Midnight's spirit lingering just beyond the veil of darkness. The shadows shifted, casting grotesque shapes along the walls. You think that will save you? The figure loomed, anger twisting its grin. To cling to those tiny rays of light. They will devour you both. It lunged toward them, but Sarah held her ground, fury igniting within her. Let her go. She shouted, the volume of her voice ricocheting through the heavy air. With that declaration, the shadows seemed to ebb, recoiling against her strength. A warmth pierced through the cold, growing brighter than the whispers of despair, illuminating the shadows. Do you feel that? Mike breathed, suddenly gripping Sarah's hand tighter. In that luminous moment, something extraordinary happened. Midnight's spirit, revealed in a spectral glow, bounded toward them, her eyes aflame with recognition. The darkness convulsed and wailed, a primal scream reverberating deep within. Midnight! Sarah shouted, her heart racing, we're here. The cat's ethereal form shimmered, a muse of resilience, unwavering in the face of terror. Together, now! Mike yelled. And with every ounce of defiance pulsing through their veins, Sarah and Mike shouted, we reclaim our bond. We choose love over fear. Their voices intertwined in harmony, creating a force that pushed back against the figure and the encroaching dark. Midnight leaped forward, wrapping an energy around them, fueling their resolve. No! Stop! You cannot, the figure roared, but its shout was drowned out by a surge of light that erupted from the mirror, enveloping them in its radiant embrace. The shadows writhed and collapsed, ripping apart at the seams of their darkness as warmth washed over them, swirling like a storm before it calmed. For an instant, it felt like they were going to be torn away. Then, there was stillness. They opened their eyes, they were back in their kitchen, the old wooden beams overhead visible again in the soft morning light filtering through the window. Midnight sat before them, alive and purring, anew. Sarah's heart soared as she knelt to scratch the cat's head. Did we do it? Mike asked, disbelief lacing his voice. I think so, Sarah whispered, but a slight unease crept in. The house felt different, not hostile, but holding on to the shadows of their past. The air was clearer yet tinged with a heavy remembrance, and then, through the silence, they heard the chime of laughter, faint yet joyous. The specter of lost souls had retreated into history. They had faced what haunted them and prevailed. Yet, as they stepped toward the door, the memory of that dark figure loomed at the edge of her mind. We never really lose our fears, do we? Sarah murmured to Mike, her brow furrowing. But we can choose to face them, to create light in the dark. He nodded, a soft smile breaking through the tension. One day at a time, right? With one last look at midnight, who basked. In the sun-kissed light, they stepped outside, the warmth wrapping around them like a protective shield. The house stood behind them, a silent sentinel of their journey. As they walked down the porch, hand in hand, the shadows lingered but now were part of the landscape, no longer ominous, but echoes of lessons learned. From here on out, Mike said, glancing back, we remember. And we choose to live. Together, Sarah replied, a lightness bursting in her chest. Together. As the sun dipped low, they stepped into the future, united against the darkness, a dynamic duo unbreakable and strong. This is what all true fans must remember. This is the moment. Support us now. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to keep our channel alive and kicking. Flood the comments with your reactions. Let us know your theories about midnight and what just happened. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. Together, we shine brighter.